welcome to the 15th webcast from Padmasambhava Ling. This is a PBC Morning Dawn study group, and today we'll be talking about the Venerable Khenpo Rinpoche's book, The Buddhist Path, chapter 15, and it's called Ngondro Practice. So thanks a lot for joining. We'll begin with our usual opening prayers, and then we'll go into the discussion. So thank you very much. Samantabhadra, Vajrayana, Pramadavajra, Sri Singha, Padmakara, the 25 king and subjects, So, Lun, Yang, and the 100 Tirtans and others, the lamas of the Kama and Terma lineages, to you I pray. The supreme tradition of the glorious Buddha Padmasambhava, which is the essential, extraordinary view and doctrine of the early translation school, you keep alive and spread by the light of wisdom. Lord of Dharma, great Khenpo, I pray at your lotus feet. In the palace of the Oakman Dharmadhatu, the essence of all the Buddhas of the three times, the one who shows clearly the Dharmakaya of my own mind, we pray to the Honorable Root Guru, glorious Root Teacher, precious one, dwelling on the lotus seat on the crown of my head. Hold me with your great kindness, and bestow the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind. Om Marabasanadi, Om Marabasanadi, Om Marabasanadi, Om Marabasanadi, Thanks. So we'll begin in the Buddhist Path, chapter 15, the Ngondro Practice, which is on page 77. And then I'll briefly just summarize the first half of the chapter, which is really short, and then we'll go into our main topics we're discussing today. So the first paragraph of Venerable Khenpo Rinpoche says that the Nundro, or the foundational practices, are the preliminary practices of the Vajrayana. Great masters like Guru Padmasambhava extracted these essential teachings of the sutras and the tantras and condensed them into the Ngondro, these practices that we're going to discuss. The Ngondro means that which goes before. So looking at this meaning in a larger way, the Ngondro practices go before because they must be done before we complete enlightenment, before we become enlightened. The Ngondro itself has several parts. The first section Rinpoche discussed is the first thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara and towards nirvana or enlightenment. And these include the 4 points. The first is our preciousness of our current situation. The second is impermanence of all conditioned existence. Third is the infallibility of cause and effect, or karma. And fourth is the futility and the dissatisfaction of doing negative actions and the inevitable experience of negative results from those actions, so samsara. Then the second section of Ngondro Practice is taking refuge in the 3 jewels of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and the 3 roots of Guru, Deva, and Dakini in the Vajrayana level of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. Then the third section of Ngondro is developing bodhicitta, which is caring more for others than for one's own self, and wishing and working to help all beings become enlightened by oneself becoming enlightened. Then the fourth section is called mandala offering, which is a principal practice to accumulate a vast amount of merit and wisdom. And then fifthly is the Vajrasattva practice to purify our negative actions and the obscurations of our mind. Then the sixth section is the Guru Yoga practice, which Rinpoche say is exceptionally important to receive the blessings of the Guru and all the lineage masters and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then mingling their wisdom mind inseparably with our own awareness. So these are the 6 main sections of any nundro practice. And then the Rinpoches then go on to say that an important part of nundro practice is prostrations, which particularly are aimed at removing obscurations of our body and releasing the knots in our channels. And they say that you can do prostrations traditionally while reciting the refuge prayers or while saying this Vajrayana mantra of Guru Padmasambhava in the Guru Yoga section. Yeah, people go, that's more or less the first section of the chapter. Then maybe Lodro, if you read that first main point and discuss.
Oh, sure. So on page 77, the first paragraph reads, "The nundro practices are the preliminary practices of the Vajrayana. The usual approach in Tibet is to start formal practice with nundro, and while doing nundro, you also do Shamatha and Vipashyana as part of nundro. In all Vajrayana practices, after the main part of the practice, there is a concluding section of Shamatha and Vipashyana. These are done according to the type of meditation you are doing, the instructions of your teacher, and your level of accomplishment. Previous great masters like Guru Padmasambhava extracted the essential teachings of the sutras and tantras and condensed them into the nundro. The nundro is a compound word in Tibetan, made up of nun, which means before, and dro, which means to go. Together they mean that which goes before, or preliminary. Looking at the meaning in a larger way, the nundro practices go before because they must be done before reaching enlightenment. If these practices go first, then enlightenment will follow. Many people translate nundro as preliminary because these are the first set of Vajrayana practices. Nundro is used to establish a firm foundation for further realization."
Well, if I may, after your lively reading, Ngondro, thank you. It gets my mind right away. What strikes me most there, personally, is the whole concept of it going before. Other people here know more about Shamatha and other types of meditation. But I was just thinking that what's rich about it, I suppose, is that you're meditating and practicing meditation, as a beginner, as we all are, but that it's something that sort of opens the path and kind of opening a space, so you're actually sort of heading in a certain direction with it. You're not sort of just sort of blankly directionless. It's something, that's the way I experience it. There's something sort of opening the path, like kind of little helpers going out there and opening space for me. So I imagine, I'm actually going to go somewhere a bit different. It's not just going to be sitting here with me, blank, whatever, kind of in the same place. That strikes me. But also, what also strikes me is that the text says that the Tibetan masters condensed in the nundro. What is it? All the sutras and all the
sutras is all
and all the tantras. So that's a lot. That's a lot. More than I will ever have a chance to touch on that. So I'm very glad someone condensed it for me. Really, honestly, seriously. And what was we just received some teachings here. We were very, very lucky from Rinpoche, from Khenpo Rinpoche. I'm very grateful for them. And he was very kind. He taught a lot about nundro in the midst of the teachings. And some of the sections struck me particularly, as perhaps parts of condensed sections that I hadn't gotten before. And I said, that's in the nundro. And I was wondering, just personally, if you want to answer personally, what struck you in those teachings and what you sort of struck you most about nundro, listening to the teachings we all just shared in the last month?
It seems like they keep, Khenpo, at least he keeps going back to nundro being something you keep doing, and it's interesting that they even explicitly, it makes sense they would say that it is preliminary, but at the same time, it's just, Khenpo keeps saying also how it's not just preliminary, it's like the stabilizer of everything else we do. It seems like, I know he talks about it being the launch pad,
Oh yeah, that's a nice thing.
But
it strikes us.
Well, it's kind of like the second paragraph, the last sentence of both those first paragraphs in a way seems related to what you're talking about. You know, the end of the last paragraph is just saying how nundro is like establishing a firm foundation, you know, for our realization. And then that last sentence in the first paragraph is saying that nundro is done according to the type of meditation you're doing, the instructions of your teacher, and the level of accomplishment. So in a way, when I was reading, especially that line, it really kind of in a way, it alludes to that part of nundro, how it really is. It is the complete path. There's nothing missing in the nundro. And like that aspect, how it is, it's everything, the whole package is right there. And just the more we spend our time familiarizing ourselves with all of these aspects, then, you know, and the more we keep that with our joy and devotion and all those ingredients, then the deeper and deeper and more full the realization comes, and how it applies every single step of the path to enlightenment. This seems like in those sentences kind of bring out that point. But I interrupted. Ngondro, what were you going to say?
Oh, you did? Oh, wow. Oh, I was looking at, for those who have the study guide to it, also, if you look down in the Vajrayana, one of the things that also struck me was when I was looking through the foundational elements of Vajrayana practice, they talk about that vast sincere motivation of bodhicitta. And of course, I mean, Nundro has the whole section of bodhicitta, you know, but also when it goes into that purity or understanding of the view of, you know, the nature, how much of that really comes out of not only the renunciations that really start to soften your heart, and soften your heart not only to, you know, being able to be more perceptive to the view, but also soften your heart in that way you're able to be more perceptive and compassionate towards others. So you have that essence. Then there's the refuge where you're really starting to sink down into that aspect, you know, into that softness, and really, you know, have that trust in the teaching. Then it, you know, blends into bodhicitta, where it's that vast compassion, that motivation that they're talking about, the foundation. And then again, when you start going into like the mandala and vajrasattva, again, you know, you're purifying the view, you're accumulating that wisdom, you're really just clearing away all that clutter. And then the Guru Yoga there, right there, you know, all of those blessings that really do just make that view so maybe personal is not really the right word, but it does give it that maybe intimate, I don't know, but that, you know, it's there. It's very tangible.
Yes.
And then, you know, going into the Amitabha practice and the dedication, particularly the dedication of virtues too, it's easy to see there how, you know, just that, it touches back into that bodhicitta, again, that motivation for others, that giving away, you know, we do all these beautiful practices and you know, have that real tangible, beautiful, you know, qualities just kind of really glorify and pop, and now it's like, okay, this isn't for me. You know, so in that sense, it's really beautiful how it's. I mean, you start to the more you look at, the more you see the different ways that it is the foundation.
Yes.
You know,
That's so rich.
it's you know, particularly the way they talk about preliminary, and the way that it's not so much just before as much as preliminary to enlightenment. All practice is preliminary to enlightenment. You know, in that way.
What strikes me, what you're saying is your sense of it being a whole that's really wonderfully tied together. And holding it so nicely and holding it up, the whole thing together. But just quickly, in case it sparks anyone else, what I found listening this time is that there's a piece I hadn't been doing, the mandala offering. It's a bother, I haven't got all the pieces together, whatever, you know, I can do this while I'm on the bus, but I can't carry this around the bus, you know, etc., right? So, I've done a little, but I haven't really sat with it much. Not that I've sat with all the rest much, but mandala specifically I haven't done. And listening to what Khenpo was saying about it this time really settled something for me. And I just did it a little bit, you know, my hand walking around between teachings. And I was really surprised because it, you know, it had a real effect on me. It's that suddenly, you know, the way he puts it is that it's offering up or pulling together, how do you put it, opening the door of infinite luxuries, opening the door of the infinite luxuries and offering them on different levels, you know, on the things that are, and on the level of one's own experience of those things, and then on, an even vaster level, and that can be read, in many different ways or experienced in different ways. But I hadn't actually sat there and pulled all those things and offer them all together all at once. And when I did, it sort of said, oh, I'm actually kind of right here. Like it is, like I can fit all those things in and it's all happening right here. And that made a big difference for me in how I experience or anticipate experiencing the rest of the nundro. So you're saying it's really a whole that's all tied together and that the pieces feed each other. Really, makes sense to me. That right now, just having noticed that recently.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm not sure if other people got something specific out of.
I got something like kind of like what you guys were all saying, and what Dylan mentioned, that he said, we keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like we don't just do nundro to get through it, to get the accumulation. I got 500,000, I'm done. Or okay, I did. Of course, there's definitely that sense. Like I have to do 100,000 prostrations.
It's nice to have a goal.
It's just like that's a number, But if you don't do any of those with mindfulness, if you don't do any of those with awareness, or like Vaya said, following the instructions, opening your heart to the practice, understanding why you're doing it, really connecting with the lineage and with the teachings while you're doing as much as you can. Because otherwise, it's kind of like, who cares if you're doing nundro? Like, if you do it routine, without thinking about it, to get it done, and you didn't transform your mind, and your heart didn't open anymore, then it's just like, it's no big difference. It's like, the point of all Dharma practice is transform the mind and the habit patterns. And like Songsar Khyentse, I personally got a lot from his book, Not for Happiness, and he really mentions that. He's like, oftentimes, we wake up, go through the practice mechanically, don't really even think or connect with the aspiration prayers, and he's like, our result is small, because we're not doing the practice.
Yeah.
Like,
Khenpo
I'm not
said
saying
that
that we're not doing it, but Rinpoche said it's like, Patra Rinpoche, he did nundro 23 times, or 25 times, or 27 times. Tsongkhapa, during one retreat, he did 3,800,000 prostrations during one 4-year retreat.
Wow.
So it's like, and these are masters of the highest degree. Nobody knew exactly what Patra Rinpoche's main practice was, but everybody thought it was nundro, because whenever they heard him, he was doing nundro practice, and the prayers and refuge, and and Atisha, one of the greatest masters ever in Tibet. They called him. They said. After a while, someone said, oh yeah, the Refuge Lama, and referred to him like that. He said, Refuge Lama? What's that? Oh, that's you! Everyone calls you Refuge Lama because you teach on refuge all the time. So much. And he was like, oh really? Oh, I'm so happy, That's so wonderful. Because he felt so joyful. He's like, if people connect with just the refuge, they're totally clear. All their path to enlightenment will be just totally clear. So anyway, that heartfelt, like really connecting with it as much as we can. Of course, moving along and keep going and not getting caught up in, but
it's also rich because it's experiential. Like I'm just thinking of refuge, and just briefly, the first times, and Lai, you were here when I think I probably said it to you, when I first did prostrations. I never heard of anything like this before, but anyway, I was here, so I like some prostrations. And I was kind of amazed. I said, oh my gosh. Because, I'm a girl, and, I have a professional status, so I'm used to holding myself up and, making sure I look good and, whatever, all this, upright, right, ready. And here I did, I sort of put myself on the floor, right, my face right on the floor, and I could get up again, and I was okay. And it was just this feeling of, that really felt kind of good to put myself down like that and not have to worry about it and just, lie down. And so there was this sense of joy, wow, I can just put myself down, and I can, I'm going to survive, I'm not going to die, but I can just put myself down. I don't have to be holding myself up like this. So, and even, beyond that, I'm now thinking, as I think of those movements, you go down and you have a certain prayer you say with it, and depending on the level of the prayer and how the instructions you've received, it sinks in different ways. You're like this, and then you go down, and you're saying a certain line as you spread out, and you do this, and then you come up saying another line, and all this is, almost like doing sports. You do sports. So the fact that you're kinesthetically doing something linked to a certain thought or a certain line, you may not have a thought yet, you're saying a line, fact that you link those pieces together, eventually you can start, whoa,
Wow.
kind of got something there.
Yeah.
I think I'm on a path, I think I'm on a track. I think this opened and went before, opened way for me to, wow. You know, you're linking
Yes.
sound and movement and lineage blessings and the lines of the prayer and your brain.
Body, speech, mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's working together to
Yeah.
take you places you didn't know you were going to go with that.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
find
my
like humility
experiences
out of
on the
nowhere or
frustrations
something.
now. Yeah, different things, wherever you're meant to go on that path.
Yeah.
It'll open it for you because you're just doing all this stuff together. You don't know how to make it. And someone goes, wow, okay, I think that's interesting.
That's why I think it's so
That's
personal too.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it's
what
like once we start doing it and we start
Yeah.
with the real intention or really opening the heart, it's like I just notice everyone I talk to, they have sort of like a slightly different way of doing every practice, you know, as opposed to your own practice. But and it's just, I love that. Just it's like you really practice, you really open your heart. You're gonna find more ways. The the more you open up, or so. I don't know. It's just I find that beautiful. But
And if
Yeah,
you-
go ahead. Speaking of sports.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in sports there's no prayer, that could be part of the problem.
Sorry about that. Did you repeat that?
Not as much prayer in sports, so we're losing the speech part. But anyway, I was just going to ask one quick question about how they say, that it must be done before reaching enlightenment. Is that talking just specifically if you're going to follow like a Vajrayana path to enlightenment? Or, I mean, because obviously in Mahayana and Hinayana practices, you don't have a specific nundro practice, although you could say that like some of those elements are involved, but maybe not to the same degree. And as far as like that also being a path to
Oh,
enlightenment,
that's a good
doesn't
question.
include nundro.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, to say the two key in Vajrayanas, there's three key ingredients that are essential for becoming enlightened. And Rinpoches have said this many times in the Buddhist path. One, we have to remove all of our obscurations, so all the habits we have, all the mistaken, less functional ways of experiencing how things are. So purification. Second, we have to reveal our goodness qualities. Bring out these positive qualities that are naturally there, but perhaps hidden away to some degree. So, and this is a lot related with accumulating merit, or accumulating a positive energy, revealing our natural capacities that are there. So that's the second. So that's purifying obscurations, accumulating merit, and third is receiving the blessings of the wisdom lineage, like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all these enlightened beings, like through the auspicious connection and their kindness, receiving their blessings to help see the own inherent purity and perfection of our own awareness, to inseparably blend with their wisdom mind. So that's the Guru Yoga part. But I think in terms of all the teachings of the Buddha include at least those two, purifying the obscurations and revealing those innate goodness qualities that every sentient being has. And then thirdly, I think what makes Vajrayana specifically more a swift path is the blessing component, the Guru Yoga component, which directly connects us all also to seeing the inherent purity of things. It's called the pure relative truth aspect, which makes Vajrayana a more swift path to actually fulfilling that enlightenment of ourselves and others. So those are the essential points of Sutra and Tantra, like those 3 points. And then more elaborately in Nundro, it has those same points.
And there's also, of course, it's kind of just reaffirming what we've heard again and again and need to know if we don't, but just how Vajrayana Buddhism is based on Mahayana, and which is based on Hinayana. It's not a completely separate system. They're all integrated and rely on each other as a whole system. So this is Tibetan Buddhism, is Vajrayana Buddhism, but that doesn't mean it's somehow separate from all the rest of the Buddhist teachings. In fact, it's like the whole package, all of the Buddhist teachings, which are based on Mahayana and Hinayana. And Rinpoches have said in this beautiful, retreat we just completed, as well as so many other times, how even within the nundro, the 4 thoughts, how that can kind of relates to the the Four Noble Truths, which is the whole path, and then as well as then also, like refuge, of course it entails everything when we're looking, coming from the perspective, but it's especially maybe more on the foundational Buddhism or Hinayana Buddhism, and then expanding that through the bodhicitta, which is again all these refuge is the gateway to all Buddhist practice, reflecting on the qualities and, moving towards these beautiful qualities and abilities and powers of the three jewels, and away from what's, causing us problems and towards something reliable. And then that's this whole vast realm of practice, until we all, and all beings. And then moving forward, expanding that vision and scope and realization and the fruit of the practice in the bodhicitta meditation, which again, that's so vital, heart essence, and then the skillful means, and accumulation of merit and wisdom. I mean, particularly in the way the mandala practice is a really catalytic process of that. But of course, all of our practice involves accumulating merit and wisdom, and then the purifying, like Drapa was mentioning with the Vajrasattva, and then it's mingling our mind with the mind of the Guru, which is essentially, again, this is called the Buddhist path, but again, the real name of this book is also opening to our primordial nature, which is the Buddhist path. So, in that sense of how the Guru Yoga, that devotional aspect and receiving the blessings is.
And the bodhicitta is so vital too. I mean, and another way it goes before is it maybe prepares you for, the bodhicitta, wishing well to others, and the practice in that, even in words, is almost, at least it was for me, almost a preparation for the times when I would almost be called upon to prove that I could do some of that, even in a little way. I'm speaking of what little progress I've made, and those times I sort of had to do something to show that I could respect, that sort of bodhicitta intention, were key points really for me in being able to progress even a little bit in this sort of whole path. So in a sense, in that way, it went before me as well. If I had not said those words and thought about it, I would never have done the things I'd done. I've done it the way I did it, and I kind of did it the way I did it because, the lineage wants me, I said I would do it, the lineage wants me to do it, and I sort of did it blindly, and then, it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but having actually done even a little thing, it made really was key to, even to the Guru Yoga, all the way up, to make enormous differences along the whole thing. So it's really clear to me how important those are. And it's called an enigma tradition, they really are together so strongly. So strongly.
Should we move? I think we only have maybe about 10 minutes.
So
To the second point.
Next.
Do you want me to read the second point?
I'll do the summary real quick first, and then that'd be
Sure.
great. So it's a quick summary. It's just the last two paragraphs of the chapter. This is page 78, I think. And the first begins that Rinpoches are talking at the end of every nundro session. You should dedicate the merit and the positive energy of the practice to remove the suffering of all beings, and also that all beings will attain the perfect happiness of enlightenment. And then also during every nundro session, you should meditate on the true nature of mind by releasing all grasping. And this formless meditation on the absolute truth should definitely be done after Vajrasattva and Guru Yoga practices, if you don't have time to do it after each of the other components of the nundro. Then the final paragraph, Rinpoches concludes saying that Shamatha concentration practice and Vipashyana insight practice are always part of Vajrayana visualization practice. And we have the quote's going to go over this more. Concentrating on the visualization while recognizing its empty nature and the emptiness nature of your own mind is the union of Shamatha and Vipashyana. And since Guru Yoga also includes the practice of pure perception and the recognition of the primordial wisdom of one's own mind and of all experiences, it is more extensive than Shamatha and Vipashyana. This Guru Yoga practice includes Shamatha and Vipashyana, and then adds that pure perception of the Vajrayana component as well. So then, please.
On page 78, the last paragraph, It says, the stability of shamatha and the higher seeing of Vipashyana are also part of the Vajrayana visualization practices. When you visualize Guru Padmasambhava and concentrate on his image, that is a form of shamatha meditation. At the end of the session, when you dissolve the image of Padmasambhava and meditate on the emptiness nature, that is a form of Vipashyana practice. Since Guru Yoga includes the practice of pure perception and the recognition of primordial wisdom, it is more extensive than shamatha or Vipashyana. The discovery of pure perception, free from clinging and duality, comes from seeing Guru Padmasambhava's wisdom light reflecting in all directions. Guru Yoga practice makes it possible to discover and experience everything as a radiant display of primordial wisdom. So, wow. I mean, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. Which I guess, I mean, just from this, that really seems like a reason why, I know Khenpo, lots of times when we're doing accumulations, he refers to Guru Yoga as doing it first sometimes. I don't know if that's always, but...
He said that's how Khenpo Rinpoche always taught
really?
it. So he's doing the same way.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, right. Beginning one's Ngondro practice by doing a certain number to really get that Guru Yoga part settled. Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
starting the accumulations. Yeah, but yeah, it just seems so beautiful. I mean, so that's very wow.
Yeah, that too applies to so many levels. Just got something there. Thanks. Thanks for your enthusiasm.
Yeah, I know. I might have to read it again. But
So, Dracula, is that kind of like how you were saying before, that you can use the Guru Yoga part to like identify with the Vajrayana view, and bring that as a swift path into, as you know, because you can identify with kind of like the, instead of maybe the Hinayana, which often focuses maybe a little bit more on, like, you know, relative truth as being suffering, and then identifying instead with like the kind of already enlightened view, it's, you know, already it's your pure perception, primordial wisdom is display. Maybe is that part of what you were saying, like why it's a swifter path, because you have that aspect that you can concentrate on from the beginning, or like bring into your practice from that perspective, you can saturate your practice from the beginning.
Yeah, I think definitely the Khenpo Rinpoches say that, and I mean even in the final line, it says Guru Yoga practice makes it possible to discover and experience everything as a radiant display of primordial wisdom. So according to the lineage of Mipam Rinpoche, and then of course the Venerable Khenpo Rinpoches who very closely follow that lineage, one of the essential points of the third turning of Buddha, like Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching, is this pure relative truth. We all have this Buddha nature, this primordial nature, and that when we see that nature first and then express from that recognition, seeing forms and sounds as being the display of that Buddha nature, that's called pure perception or devotion, which is more or less a distinctive feature of Vajrayana practice in that way. All the Buddhist teachings include devotion and seeing the goodness, but Vajrayana specifically recognizes that that's an inherent quality of the nature of all sentient beings' minds, and then it utilizes different meditation techniques to engage one's body, one's speech, one's mind, to recognize the purity of each of those three aspects with a practice, when comprehensively bringing them all together at once in a single meditation practice or in a single instant. And that's part of the swiftness of the Vajrayana. So it goes to that pure relative truth, and then the Guru Yoga also reveals the absolute truth, the pure, stainless, non-conceptual wisdom nature of one's own mind, and thus all experiences. So you have pure relative truth and inseparable with absolute truth, and then you have like the full Vajrayana view, or you could say the same way at union of Shamatha or Vipashyana, or the complete teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Rinpoche. I think this
It ties into a little bit of what we were talking before too, about how, you know, it's the Shamatha and the Vipashyana are in all of these parts. You know, particularly if you actually have that time to do it in between each session. But even what we were saying before, you know, there's you do the sitting meditation after the Vajrasattva, you do it after the Guru Yoga for, you know, very good reason. Because it's like, okay, wake up, you know. This is what you're doing this for. Come on. You know.
we have to become, I mean, familiar and like comfortable with both the form aspect and the formless aspect. If we only are comfortable when things are moving and expressive and active, then we can get good at that, and we need to. But if we tend to push away the quieter, being, still, formless aspect, then that's a problem, because the form and the formless are inseparable. I mean, the relative and the absolute, that's the teachings. At the same time, if we only want to sit there and peacefully abide and not have anything disturb us and have everything be quiet and feel good and kind of zone out and all that, this blank emptiness, then that's definitely not the teaching of the Buddha. I mean, we need to see the emptiness, the flexibility of the nature, and it flexibly arises as expression, and that can be like impure expressions, like if we're seeing things through duality, or pure expressions if we're not beginning with duality, but more connecting to our Buddha nature first. But that's inner, we need to, I mean, and that's like the beauty of the creation and completion stages, or of Shamatha and Vipashyana. It tries to seamlessly, like waves, like it arises as expression and dissolves into expressionlessness, and get flexible with that.
Wow. It's almost as though we're saying that Ngondro gives you Shamatha and Vipashyana, but there's a third element, the Ngondro itself, or the lineage blessings, you know, or the light, the sort of whatever it is that if you sit and just do Shamatha and Vipashyana, you're not necessarily going to find just sitting with yourself something. So it's really saying that something it's going to take you somewhere towards something. There's a third element there. You're doing Shamatha and Vipashyana, but there's something else that's guaranteeing sort of a level of that, or a brightness of it, or a light in it, or the Ngondro itself, you know, Ngondro itself as a lineage teaching. So, you know, it's the extra piece. You've got three pieces, not just Shamatha and Vipashyana, which are wonderful.
Which are very wonderful. I mean, that's the essential teaching too of the Sutra Mahayana. So bodhicitta done with Shamatha and Vipashyana definitely is taught, it leads to full enlightenment, unsurpassable enlightenment, but it takes the 3 countless eons. So then adding in that extra part of the pure perception, or the devotion component, or mingling with the wisdom blessings of the lineage and seeing one's own nature that way too. It goes from, instead of going out with a crusty dualistic mind and like whittling away and revealing the inner good Buddha nature, it goes right into the Buddha nature with the Guru Yoga blessings, and then have the goodness reveal from that, like it's already fully accomplished, and then to more and more flexibly see that.
So it goes before you like a good attendant that will you know, get you sort of further along.
It's like,
which I think is why Guru Yoga is taught to, taught by Rinpoches first.
Because Padmasambhava, he embodies that. You know, I know Chogyam Trungpa and Crazy Wisdom, he talks about that as far as instead of going inside, you know, from the outside, coming outside from the inside, you know. It's like Padmasambhava, he was born enlightened, you know, and I don't know, I thought of that and sort of reminded me, and so it just makes sense to have that devotion. It's like, well, he can show us, you know, right where it is, right in our heart.
And like you know, they say the four reliances sometimes too, but also they say in relation to the teacher, don't rely just on the form, rely on the teachings, and rely on the teacher's wisdom mind. Otherwise you could get caught up in thinking that Padmasambhava has a little vulture cap and like this and a katvanga, and that's what Padmasambhava is, you know. Which Rinpoche said that really strongly before. Oh, you think this is Padmasambhava? They pointed to the picture of Padmasambhava in the Gompa. This is a symbol of Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava appear as anything, especially the nature of your own mind. So the teacher, I think that's a good point too. The teacher is the Buddha appearing in human form. Not just human, you know. And the Guru Yoga really helps us connect with that fact that it's not something, enlightenment is not outside of ourselves. It never will be, never was, never has been for anyone who attained it. So through the blessings of that embodied enlightenment that we have, we're blessed with the example through our teachers who hold the teachings and the realization, you know, the Dharma of realization, not just scripture, but also the realization. And then we realize, we merge with them, we see that like we are our mind is the same as their mind, you know, and their blessings penetrate us, and we no longer see the teacher as just external, you know, this person from this culture. You know?
Yeah, wow.
So beautiful. So then you really see the teacher. Not just as an ordinary form, you know.
And oddly enough, I found that the more you sort of see more of a wisdom mind, the teacher, the more comfortable you are just with the person, the teacher too. You know, it all goes together.
It
Sort
displays
of,
in a certain way.
and you're more tender and more, just sort of easygoing with the actual person. And maybe that's sort of what the teaching is on bodhicitta, that with each other as well. The more we manage to get sort of easygoing and just comfortable with each other, like, hi, Susan. I know you know a lot, even though you're so quiet. The grace of your quietness. What's going on in there? Nice woman. The more that too shows that somehow we also sort of have an access to more wisdom mind. That all those levels go together, and comfort with them all goes together too. Being natural. A little bit.
Yeah, that's what it's
All about. Now we can go do the nundro.
And again, like so many of the chapters, we really need to conclude now, but it's only 2 pages, but this is so rich, like even we just kind of scratched the surface, so really, of course, and again, that's what's so beautiful about all these teachings, is reflect on them again and again and again and again. It's really not the final word until we've
practiced it, or
practiced and absorbed and realized. But maybe we'll just dedicate the merit for now. And
Thank you.
just sit for a moment. Swasti Vitsayantu Chosum Sasum Jitu Bedmaju Ninde Sode Tuje Tujinji Kenchin Palden Chera Tupeku Nujo Tendo Zezanga Jinjo Om Swasti Chukun Nanta Dunku Chenrezi Chuku Bajum Yabyum Tujetu Pela Balsanja Chogyan Sika Tendo Pende Lundu Nurcharsho Kajira We Kowe Shinkamsu Pendande Wamadu Junwene Chenje Ziwan Tenzin Jamsuyi Jabe Gaje Wadu Tenjuji Om Swasti Sewan Rizin Bemejin Laji Dunni Drupe Laksan Ordena Shedrum Golo Sumchi Ajote Sanje Natam Jole Nam Jasho. By this merit may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara may I free all beings. The precious bodhicitta, and those without it may it be generated, and those who have it may it never diminish, but always continue increasing.